Once a concept of science fiction, the Space Force is now a reality as nations expand their military presence beyond Earth. The creation of the United States Space Force in 2019, with responsibilities such as protecting satellites, deterring space-based threats, and ensuring freedom of operations in space, has brought to light critical questions about the future of space exploration and its potential militarization. Is this the dawn of a new era of protecting satellite infrastructure? Or are we laying the groundwork for conflicts beyond our planet? Why a Space Force? The primary motivation for creating a Space Force lies in the growing dependence on space-based assets. Modern military, communication, and navigation systems all rely heavily on satellites. The increasing risks posed by anti-satellite ASAT weapons and cyber threats from nations like Russia and China have made the militarization of space a priority. The Space Force aims to protect and maintain critical space infrastructure, such as GPS satellites, ensuring it stays operational during times of conflict. The legal framework, an obstacle or outdated? The militarization of space has always been a touchy subject, largely due to the Outer Space Treaty of 1967, which designates space as a global commons. This treaty prohibits the placement of nuclear weapons or other weapons of mass destruction in space. However, the treaty doesn't explicitly address non-WMD military activity, creating grey areas that nations can exploit. The recent drive towards military space capability raises concerns that this legal framework is either outdated or insufficient to prevent an arms race in space, particularly because it does not address modern military activities like satellite weaponization or the deployment of non-nuclear military technology. Defensive posturing or aggressive expansion? Supporters of the Space Force argue that it is a defensive measure aimed at protecting satellite infrastructure and ensuring continued access to and peaceful use of space. For example, in 2007, China conducted an anti-satellite missile test that destroyed one of its own weather satellites, demonstrating the vulnerability of satellite infrastructure and highlighting the need for defensive measures. Supporters contend that much of the world's military communications depend on space, making the capability to defend those assets crucial. In this view, the Space Force is akin to the Navy patrolling vital sea routes. Critics, however, worry that the establishment of a Space Force could be the beginning of an arms race in space. By treating space as a military domain, they argue, it encourages other nations to do the same, leading to a cycle of escalation. This raises fears of Kessler syndrome, where destroyed satellites create debris fields that render space inaccessible, potentially causing a cascading effect of collisions that could make certain orbits unusable, endangering peaceful scientific and commercial activities. The final frontier or the next battlefield? The prospect of space militarization isn't limited to satellites. Concepts such as space-to-ground weaponry, which involves weapons launched from space to targets on the ground, or the deployment of kinetic energy weapons, which use the force of impact from high-speed projectiles rather than explosives, are no longer relegated to science fiction. Furthermore, as private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin lower the cost of accessing space, the number of active satellites and the potential for conflicts only increase. Countries might soon see military bases on the moon or strategic control over high-value Lagrange points, which are positions in space where the gravitational forces between celestial bodies create a stable environment, making them ideal for placing satellites or space stations. As we push deeper into the solar system, questions arise as to how we can prevent conflict over resources or territory on the Moon, Mars, or even asteroids. The future, international cooperation or competition? A key element to avoiding the militarization of space might lie in international cooperation. Joint missions, like the International Space Station, which involves countries such as the United States, Russia, Japan, Canada, and members of the European Space Agency, are positive examples of collaboration beyond borders. However, as more countries develop independent space programs, such as China's recent lunar missions, The balance between cooperation and competition will be crucial in determining if space remains a place of peace and exploration, or turns into a new domain for military conquest. Conclusion. The formation of a space force raises vital questions about the future of space. Is the Space Force a necessary step to ensure security in an increasingly satellite-reliant world, or does it risk setting a dangerous precedent? As we move further into this new era, the choices we make now about the use of space will determine whether it remains a peaceful frontier or becomes yet another battleground. What do you think? Is the Space Force a necessary evolution of military strategy? Or are we opening Pandora's box by militarizing space? Share your thoughts in the comments below.